All right, buckle up because we're heading to Manitowaj, Ontario.
Manitowaj.
Yeah, it's a town, but like not just any town.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It was built like completely from scratch by people with, well, you could say, a serious pioneering spirit.
So we're talking like venturing into the wilderness, forging a new life, that kind of thing.
Exactly, driven by dreams, maybe a little gold fever, the whole shebang.
Yeah, that's a story I want to hear.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It's not your typical boomtown story, right?
Oh, what makes Manitowaj different?
Well, these pioneers, they had to deal with all sorts of stuff, like legal battles, environmental challenges, even family dramas. It all gets woven into this story.
Sounds more like a tapestry than a straight line to striking it rich.
Right. And we've got some awesome sources to guide us. Adventure Media, they're putting together this video series all about the pioneers, and we got a sneak peek.
Awesome. Anything else?
Yeah. There's this museum exhibit, and get this, it's called The Future.
The future, huh? Playing with time travel a bit, are they?
Seems like it. But it's clever, right? They're connecting the past and the future, showing how those early choices still matter today.
It makes you think, what kind of mark are we leaving on the places we call home?
Exactly. Okay, so let's rewind the clock. All the way back to 1932.
1932. All right, what happened?
Our sources talk about this lone geologist setting off from Ottawa. He hops on a train to Hemlo, then braves the Black River system, and get this, with an Ojibwe guide.
Ooh, that's dedication.
Right. Talk about going the extra mile.
It also shows you the power of collaboration, relying on local knowledge to navigate the unknown. Pretty cool to see that respect for indigenous expertise, even back then.
Definitely. And this wasn't just some sightseeing trip. This geologist, he stumbles upon a massive deposit. Copper, zinc, silver, and gold.
Whoa, talk about hitting the jackpot.
I know, right? But hold on, because things get even more interesting. Fast forward to 1953, this discovery sets off a massive staking rush.
A staking rush, so everyone wants a piece of the action.
Yep. And it ends up in this huge legal battle, all the way to the Ontario Supreme Court. High stakes.
Wow, so this wasn't just some local squabble. What happened?
Well, the court basically said that just because you staked a claim first doesn't mean you automatically own it, especially if you didn't follow all the rules.
Oh, so it was about the fine print.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that decision, it changed the game for the entire Canadian mining industry. Suddenly, everyone had to pay way more attention to the details.
So this one case in Manitowaj, it had ripple effects across the entire country.
Big time. It shows how law, resources, and that pioneering spirit, they're all tangled up together. It's not just about finding gold, it's about navigating the whole system too.
It's way more complex than you'd think at first glance.
Absolutely. And that complexity, it's mirrored in the early days of the town itself. Our sources describe this place called Tent City.
Tent City. Sounds rustic.
It was. Basically, it popped up overnight, filled with miners from everywhere, each with their own story, all chasing fortune and a fresh start.
Wow. I can only imagine the energy of that place. So many different people coming together.
I know, right? Must have been quite a scene.
So what was daily life like back then? Were there any, larger-than-life characters or crazy stories from those early days? It sounds like something out of the Wild West.
Well, I bet there are tons of those stories tucked away in Adventure Media's footage waiting to be told. But think about it, water, shelter, even basic sanitation, they had to figure all that out from scratch.
You're right, it was community building in its rawest form. Collaboration wasn't just nice, it was crucial for survival.
Absolutely. But life on the frontier, it's not always easy, right?
Definitely not.
And one event Adventure Media really highlights is this massive fire in 1975. It threatened the whole town and really hit the local logging companies hard.
Wow, a fire. That's devastating. What happened after?
Well, it forced Manitowaj to take a hard look at their emergency preparedness, like how ready were they for something like that to happen again?
That makes sense. You don't want to be caught off guard.
Right. And the result was this really strong emergency measures program, one that other towns actually ended up using as a model.
So they took this tragedy and turned it into a positive change.
Exactly. Talk about resilience. It shows how challenges can force us to innovate and adapt and ultimately make us stronger as a community.
It's like that saying, what doesn't kill you?
Makes you stronger, exactly. And that spirit of innovation in Manitowaj, it wasn't just about reacting to disasters. They had some pretty impressive technological advancements during their development, too.
Do tell.
Well, our sources hint at this individual who introduced some groundbreaking technology, like a new method or something.
Ooh, a bit of mystery.
I know, right? What was it? a new mining technique, some revolutionary environmental system. I can't wait to find out.
Me neither. But whatever it was, it sounds like it had a big impact on Manitowoc's growth, maybe even influenced the town's mill operations.
It's a great example of how the pioneering spirit takes shape not just surviving the wilderness, but using ingenuity to solve problems and make things better.
It's about finding those aha moments where creativity meets necessity.
Totally. But it's not all about gadgets and inventions, right? What about the lasting impact these pioneers had on Manitowoc, like on the town's personality?
Right, how do their actions, their values still shape the community today? That's a great question. It really gets at the heart of what iVenture Media is exploring. It's fascinating, isn't it? How decisions made decades ago can have such a lasting impact.
Totally. It's like those ripples spreading out in a pond.
Exactly. How did those early pioneers shape the town's culture, its relationship with the environment, its very sense of self?
Big questions. And here's another layer. We're not just talking about the big names and famous stories.
Oh, what else is there?
iVenture Media is hinting at some hidden histories, stories of maybe forgotten figures, unusual events, things that add a whole new dimension to Manitowoc's past.
Ooh, I love that. Uncovering those lesser-known stories can completely change how we understand the past.
Right. It's like a historical treasure hunt, digging deeper to find those unique pieces that make Manitowoc, well, Manitowoc.
It's a good reminder that history is made up of countless individual stories, each with its own significance.
I love that. And speaking of unique, iVenture Media is planning to focus on a specific family who had a huge impact on the town.
A family. Now that's where things get really personal.
I know. It makes you think about how these families lived, worked, built a community together.
It's those personal stories, the everyday triumphs and struggles that really bring history to life.
And it reminds us that history isn't just about what happened way back when. It's a continuous story, connecting us to the past and shaping the future.
It's about understanding the interconnectedness of generations.
Exactly. I'm excited to dive into their story, but for now, let's take a little break and then we'll jump into what the future holds for Manitowoc. Even pioneers need a moment to catch their breath right.
Absolutely. I'm ready when you are.
All right, so we've gone from a lone geologist's discovery to Tent City. Quite a journey. But what about Manitowoc's future? Where do things go from there?
Well, our sources give us a pretty interesting clue. Remember that museum exhibit, The Future?
Oh yeah, with the sunrise and the leaf?
That's the one. And the tagline, something like, "The museum time travels the past is the future."
Keep digging, keep exploring.
Ah.
Yeah, it's pretty touchy.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? They're basically saying to understand where Manitowoc is going, you got to keep digging into where it's been.
Like progress isn't about forgetting the past, it's about learning from it.
Exactly. And that imagery, the sunrise, the leaf,
Yeah, it feels hopeful, like a fresh start.
it definitely evokes a sense of renewal.
Yeah.
And that connection to nature, it's super relevant, especially considering Manitowoc's history as a mining town.
You're right. It makes you think about the balance between using resources and protecting the environment. Like, how do you do both?
It's a question a lot of communities are grappling with. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's circle back to that family iVenture Media wants to feature.
Oh, yeah. The family that played such a big role in Manitowoc's story. What do we know about them?
Well, the specifics are still a bit of a mystery, but it sounds like their involvement goes way back.
Generations, maybe?
Probably. They likely saw it all, from those boomtown beginnings to all the changes and challenges the town faced.
I'd love to know how their story intersects with the bigger picture. Like, were they involved in the mining industry? Local politics, maybe? Community groups?
Right. What were their struggles, their triumphs? Those personal stories really bring history to life.
Absolutely. And by following their journey, we get a glimpse into what it was actually like to build a life in Manitowoc, to raise a family, to be a part of this unique community.
It reminds us that history isn't just dates and events. It's about real people and their experiences.
Speaking of experiences, what about those hidden histories iVenture Media keeps teasing? What kind of forgotten stories do you think they'll uncover?
That's the fun part. Who knows what they'll find? Maybe stories of the indigenous communities who were there long before the miners arrived.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Or maybe stories of forgotten entrepreneurs or those everyday heroes whose contributions might have been overlooked. There's always more to discover.
It's like peeling back layers of time, and I bet there were some scandals along the way, right? Every town has its secrets.
Absolutely. And Those secrets can often reveal a more complex and nuanced understanding of the past.
Okay, so imagine those early days in Tent City. Beyond the obvious challenges, like finding shelter and clean water, what were the social dynamics like?
Right. Was it all about camaraderie and pulling together? Or were there rivalries and conflicts too?
It must have been a real mix of hope and desperation.
For sure. It's like a microcosm of human nature, amplified by the unique circumstances of a boomtown. You got people from all walks of life, all chasing a dream. Bound to be some friction along the way.
It makes you wonder how they navigated it all.
Well, that's where the pioneering spirit really comes in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just about braving the wilderness or finding gold. It's about resilience, adapting to whatever comes your way.
And remember that fire in 1975? It wasn't just about rebuilding, it was about learning from that experience.
Exactly. They developed that emergency measures program that became a model for other towns.
Turning a tragedy into something positive, that's pretty powerful.
It really shows the strength of the community. And don't forget that groundbreaking innovation we talked about.
Oh, yeah, that new technology or method. It's killing me that we don't know the details yet.
I know the suspense is building. But whatever it was, it clearly had a major impact on Mantuaja's development.
It's a great example of how that pioneering spirit keeps evolving. It's not just about the past, it's about constantly seeking new solutions and pushing boundaries.
And that brings us back to that future exhibit at the museum. The imagery, the tagline, it's all about looking ahead while honoring the past.
It's like they're saying, hey, the story's not over yet. It's your turn to keep exploring, to make your mark.
Exactly. And what about that family we were talking about? How does their story fit into this vision of the future?
Right. It's like their journey reflects the journey of the town itself, all those ups and downs. What did they learn along the way? How did they shape Manitowaj? And what are their hopes for the future?
Such great questions. It's a reminder that history is always unfolding. Each generation adds its own layer to the story.
And those layers are often filled with unexpected twists and turns. But through it all, it's that sense of community, that shared experience that really binds us together.
And that spirit of community, it's the most important legacy of the pioneers, wouldn't you say? It's the foundation upon which towns like Manitowaj are built.
You know, it's funny, after hearing all this about Manitowaj, it makes you think, what kind of pioneer would you have been back then?
Oh, wow. Yeah, if you could time travel back to those early days, huh?
Exactly. Would you be like that geologist striking out into the unknown, all brave and adventurous?
Or maybe more of a builder. Someone who thrives on creating something from nothing, like those folks setting up Tent City.
Honestly, I think I'd be drawn to the community aspect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, maybe run a little store or organize some social gatherings. It seems like those early days were all about people coming together, supporting each other.
For sure, a real testament to human resilience. But we can't forget about the innovators either, right? The ones who see a problem and think, gotta find a better way.
Like the person behind that mysterious technology we keep talking about.
Exactly. What do you think drove them?
Good question. Was it about making life easier for everyone you know, improving things? Or maybe they just loved a good challenge, pushing the limits of what was possible.
Probably a bit of both, right?
Yeah.
That mix of practicality and ingenuity.
Total, like that saying, necessity is the mother of invention.
Spot on. And speaking of necessity, how do you think that 1975 fire shaped Manitowaj's identity? We talked about the emergency measures program, but what about the deeper impact?
Yeah, the psychological impact.
Exactly.
I imagine it really solidified the importance of community, that sense of we're all in this together.
Absolutely. Going through that kind of shared experience, loss recovery, rebuilding it, creates a powerful bond.
And probably fueled a real determination to make Manitowaj safer, more resilient.
For sure. It's a reminder that even tragedy can bring out the best in people, that pioneering spirit shining through.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Manitowaj, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from all this?
I hope they're inspired by that pioneering spirit, that blend of resilience, innovation, and community that built Manitowaj from the ground up.
It's a pretty incredible story.
It is, and more than that, I hope people realize that this spirit, it's not limited to a specific time or place. It's something we all have within us.
Waiting to be sparked. So whether you're facing a personal challenge or dreaming big or just wanting to connect with your community, remember those pioneers in Manitowaj. Their story shows us that even when things are uncertain, we have the power to create, to innovate, to build a better future.
Well said.
Yeah.
And for our listeners out there, one final thought. What kind of pioneer will you be? The story of Manitowaj is still being written, and each of us has the chance to add our own chapter. So go out there, explore, innovate, connect, and leave your mark on the world.